Hi everyone, this is Riza with Full Awakening, and I'm here to give you your weekly golden nugget. So this week, I've got some Palo Santo smoke going and a little bit of my singing bowl is still ringing. It seems to me that every time my family and I have a cold, I do this weekly nugget here in this room, which is my bedroom. But this week, at least we have a good view. We have some multi-artist art collage going on behind me. It's a work in progress. So this week we're going to talk about stepping off the track. That's the title that Spirit gave. And each week, for those of you that are new to this offering, each week on a Thursday I do a live Facebook feed where I just basically talk about a reading that I've done, a channeled reading that I've done for the collective and for specifically the people who will be drawn to watching this video. So that means you, if you're watching this video, welcome. So when I do these readings, I go into an activated space, I call in the directions and the elements, and I call in my primary council that I use as my wisdom council. They're the council of 17 is what we call them. And I receive information in the form of images and emotion and pantomime, and that travels through my body, and I feel that, and that brings meaning and words, and more of a story gets pulled out. So one of the ways I ground that is I write a poem, and this is what I do at the beginning before all of my sessions when I do one-on-one work, as well as my classes, as well as these offerings. So this is just kind of my method of how I get into that zone, into that vibration where I'm with my higher self and I'm with my primary wisdom council, and I'm able to bring forth information that is clear and helpful. So that is what I hope I have for you today. This was an interesting image. So I'm going to first read you the poem, and then we'll go into the fuller image, and then I'll talk about what I think that means. Okay? So this golden nugget is entitled Stepping Off the Track. Life moves us back and forth, around and around, through levels of automation and expectation. We incubate dreams of something different in the dark pockets of space inside our bodies. Feeling that life spring into action and reach up to tickle our hearts. But we still are not sure what this new different will be. As we proceed on this track of life, we are given chances again and again to step off. And when we step off onto solid ground, there is a place that we can explore in a different way. This new space feels like freedom, and this is what we most yearn for. It is also a place steeped in the mystery of endless possibility. But to get here, we must first have the witness watching and ready, readying their hand to reach out and pull us free. So that is the image. I also pulled a tarot card that I will be showing you in a moment. It's actually really appropriate for this reading. I want to explain a little bit more about what this means and what the image looked like to me, because the channeled writing, it sometimes brings out more information than I originally received in the reading, but also it's truncated from the full image that I received. So it's kind of both. It's a really good way. Writing is always, writing any form of expression, art, anything that you do, making music is a great way to pull energy that's coming through your body fully into form. It's a way to complete the cycle. You know, I like to use the example of a tree gathering sunlight and bringing that all the way down their body, gathering up minerals and nutrients from the soil, bringing that all the way back out, producing flowers that get pollinated, and those flowers turn into fruit, and the fruit contains the seed, which contains the potential for new life, and that's the full cycle, right? That fruit gets eaten, those seeds get spread, and life begins anew. And so for me, you know, our bodies are translation devices. We are our own translation device to bring energetic information into our bodies and translate it into meaning. And we're doing this unconsciously all the time. It's how we operate as energetic and physical beings. So a big part of my process has been honing that skill, that ability. So for me, writing the piece of poetry, you could call it, or the piece of writing that I do after a reading is a way for me to pull that visionary experience into the physical world, onto the page. I receive more information through that, but I also don't, all the information of that reading is not contained within the writing. So let me explain. The image that I saw for us as a collective in this reading was moving on this tract, almost like at Disney World, where you're on a ride, and the ride, you're in a boat or you're in a little train car and the train's moving. And it was this very specific kind of back and forth image, like a snaking river, like a very young snaky river. But we're in these containers, in these tracks, and we're being moved. And the feeling was like, this is how life feels sometimes. Life feels like an automation. It feels like we're on a track we can't get off of. It feels, in that sense, powerless and choiceless. There's certain things we have to do every day to maintain our lives. There's work that we do, and there's work that we do for our home that we don't necessarily get paid for, work that we do with our children or our elderly parents or our animals. There's just this, people call it the grind, right? And it can start to feel like a rut, in that it's just something that we keep working the same pathway. And so that was the first part of the image. The second part of the image was that there's all this space around that track. So there's this tight little track snaking us in these little train cars in this kind of dark space, and this feeling of discontent inside the person in that car. But there's all this space around, and what is that space? We can't really see. It's this mysterious other space. So this idea through the writing that there's a dream that we all harbor that is inside our bodies, incubating, that we're always incubating these dreams, these desires, these thoughts. And we're not always quite sure what they are, but we might get little glimpses of them. I personally have been watching a ton of this series on YouTube called Big Living in a Tiny Home. And tiny homes have been a fascination of mine for many years. And we actually, my husband and I, built a tiny home a few years ago that was a cottage on our land in Portland, Oregon. We used for my sessions, and we used it for ceremonies and community gatherings. And it was so challenging to build it from the ground up, but it was so satisfying, and that space felt so amazing. So it's interesting to watch these shows, these little micro, like 20-minute episodes of this guy, Bryce from Australia, interviewing these different people who have built their own tiny homes, and seeing who those people are that reached for this dream. And I think the common thread that sort of comes into this reading and this writing is this idea that these dreams that we have, these kind of wacky ideas, or these like thoughts we have about our future that feel really yummy to us, and even if they aren't fully formed, they all have they have this patina of freedom. There's something about them that feels like freedom. But how to get off of this automated track and into this new arena sometimes is very confusing. How do we do that, right? And how little control, how much control and how little control do we have over that process? There's a sense that during the long part of this track, you don't really have control. You kind of have to trust the flow of this little river in this Disney World ride that you're on. This river, you have to kind of get there, right? And so for me, that symbolizes this like releasing control and this trust that goes into the process of life. We can't always be fighting life. We have to enjoy our lives and enjoy this present moment, enjoy where we are in this present moment, enjoy the current things that are to be savored, and that we are to feel gratitude and appreciation for, the food that we have, the family that we have, the time that we have, the hot baths, the warm home, whatever it is that's in our lives. Like, that's that through line of that path of like, go with the flow and enjoy each moment, right? But there's something about that bend that right as we're bending back on that track, there's a moment, there's a chance, an opportunity to jump off. And often we miss it, right? And it's okay that we miss it. It's okay that we miss it, because we'll go around another bend in a little bit after another through line. And that's the moment of choice. That's the moment where we could hop off. And so what Spirit was saying is, it's almost as if you have to send out scouts. Like, this compassionate witness part of yourself can have all of these like sort of earth angelic scouts that are at the bends, that are all at these places, these opportunities to step off the track, so that when you're really ready, when that vision's fully incubated, when you know it's time, when you get that grasshopper feeling like it's the moment to jump, that there's that witness on the other side that can pull you off the track, that can help you out of the boat, that can get you onto solid ground. And that's really what we're hoping for is to cultivate that part of us that has the big vision, that holds the big vision, that can see the whole track, and that's willing to be like, now it's time, step off. And that we're brave enough to say, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to step off into this new arena of unknown, multiple possibilities, right? Infinite possibilities, endless possibilities. And that can be really scary, but really fun and rejuvenating, refreshing. So after that happens, the image that I got at the very, very end, you have all these scouts at these bends along the track, and then these scouts all re-enter the singular person body, the singular experience. And so there's this time of diffusion and this time of integration that happens. And we really want that, from a shamanic perspective, a healer perspective. That's the main thing that I teach my students and my clients, is that most of this process is about how we come together, how we bring our power back into our body and into our present moment. So there's a little bit of this feeling of like, during those through lines where you're trusting and you're trying to enjoy every moment, you still are going to be diffusing your energy or sending it out a little bit, because you're going to have these scouts watching these bends in the road. But once you've stepped off into this new arena, into this new land, you can power up and bring all those scouts back and forge a new path that does not yet exist. And that's the hero's path. That's what we all yearn for. That's why we watch movies and read books and listen to each other's stories, is we're all listening for that hero's path. That's why we idolize, movie stars and rock stars and amazing famous writers and people who are living in a really different way than most of us live, because we want, and even our friends, even people within our own communities who are just like business people who are successful or who are doing their own thing, artists who are out there in the woods painting murals, like we really think of those people as inspiration points because they're living something that feels to us like they're free, right? That's why I watch the Tiny Home show, is because it's all these people saying, I'm free of the system. There's a part of the system I'm no longer invested in this very tracked way of thinking about bigger is better, and that having certain levels of possession means that I'm more successful, and people saying, no, actually, I'm going to go the opposite direction. I'm going to say having less stuff and less space and less debt is better for me and my well-being. So let's get to the reading of the tarot card, because I pulled this tarot card and I was like, that's perfect. Okay. So I don't know how many of you can relate to this whole idea of stepping off the track, but I'm guessing a lot of you are going to be relating to it in some way. So this is the card I picked, the Seven of Chalices. And I love this image. Oh, as always, the backwards operation of this camera confuses me. Okay, the Seven of Chalices. And you see here, this lovely woman in her priestess robes is picking fruit off the tree. She already has a basket. They describe it in the book as, she has 7 different levels of harvest that are happening here. So this card, the timing of this card is Lamas, is like the harvest time. And she has honey and corn and apples and tomatoes and grapes and all sorts of different things, 7 different things that she's harvested. The meaning of the card is really about abundance, but it's also about fantasy and dream. And so I've written down a couple of the key words here that I was like, oh, this is perfect. So it's about our dreams and our fantasies of what we really want, and being able to arrive at that point in which it is time to harvest what we've been dreaming, what we've been incubating, and being able to choose how to move forward, to be able to choose, in our reading, to step off the track and to create something new, right? So there's an abundance of things she could be harvesting right now, but she's harvesting these 7 specific plants and fruits, which are plants. She's, and honey, these specific harvests. She's going after very specific ones for specific reasons. So there's a level of choice. I think that one of the things that is deceivingly challenging about modern life, especially modern civilized life in these first world countries like the US, is that we have so many choices where like our brains are like completely cluttered with choices, right? And sometimes we're so overwhelmed by choices we can't actually participate in the life in front of us. We can't make the choices. There's too many. There's too many cereals in the cereal aisle. Like I just want 3 choices. I want the fruity kind, or the flaky raisin kind, or the granola. Like I don't want like 50 options that are all kind of crappy. Like, you know what I mean? So we have so many choices, and we think of that in terms, that's freedom, right? For us, freedom is having all these choices, but it is not always feeling very free inside of us to have so many choices. So giving ourselves permission at this time, you know, we're still in the dreamer time of year. We're in the winter time of year. And I know that a lot of us are really tired of the winter. Those of us in the Northern Hemisphere who are feeling the cold and experience these Arctic blasts and all these things that we're experiencing and the sub-zero weather. I'm sure a lot of us are like, okay, spring, okay, I'm loving the crocuses and the dandelions. Let's get on with it, you know? But these are the precious last couple months of winter, and we should use this time to dream, and we should use this time to create. And, you know, it's one thing to be able to see beauty, and it's another thing to be able to create beauty. And so give yourself permission to create beauty and to allow the dreams that you have to start to take a little bit more form, and to get a flavor for that, and get a yearning for that, and to make little tiny small actions towards a life that doesn't feel so automated. So for instance, for us and our family, we were feeling kind of wishy-washy about our diet and what we were eating for a while. And we just decided in this last couple of weeks to switch our diet completely. And there were some medical reasons and some reasons in our home that that was a good choice to go, but we all went in that direction. And we've all been so much happier for it. Our bodies have been feeling so much better. It's a small thing to change the way you eat. I mean, it's not that small of a thing, but it's a relatively small thing. It's not like quitting a job or moving locations or, you know, anything like that. But it can really affect that feeling of confidence in your ability to make change when you take one small action towards change. So that would be my offer for all of you this week, is to make one small gesture in the direction of your dreams. Even if that dream is to take better care of yourself, you know, take an extra bath this week, or, you know, take some time for yourself to read a really good book in a super comfy position, or take yourself out to a movie, or have a date with a friend. Like, what is it that fills you up? Like, let yourself be filled up this week. Just find one way to let yourself be filled up, and let that feeling of dream come to you, come closer to you, right? Come more into reality, because we all deserve that and we need that. And we're all yearning for freedom, both inside and outside of ourselves. And that is our birthright. We can have that. We can all create our own form of freedom. So thank you very much, all of you. Always, always my love and gratitude to you for who you are and what you bring to this earth and to all these beings here at this time. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I'll see you next week on Thursday for your other new weekly golden nugget. Okay, bye.